Hey, good morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Strategy Show, Ownership and Top Stacks Edition. Fun show. We got our first run of ownership last night. Looking pretty good early on. Some of these spots, man, woo, you'll see. Neil told me before the show, he goes, I'm getting ugly this week. And he's talking about DFS. So we'll
I'm
see
ugly
where
every
today.
week.
Yeah, I hear you. Listen, sometimes you have to. We'll see where today's show takes us. We'll see where the slate takes us. It's only a 10-game slate. If you weren't here with us yesterday, Ben Rass and myself breaking it down on the first look show, you'd know I mentioned I love the 10-game slates. I prefer it over the 12, 13 gamers, all of that stuff. Give me 10 games any day of the week. It lets us dial in on certain spots, but you also have some high totals. You have some big spreads on this one as well. So we'll break it down from start to finish, top to bottom. Happy to have you guys with us as always. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Atone for your sins here on a Wednesday morning. We're midway through the week. Just take a single second. Show some love if you appreciate this type of content around here. And hit that thumbs up button. Neil, your Twins won yesterday.
They did. That was fun. 2 home runs out of Royce Lewis. Man, we've got some young talent here in Minnesota across all the different sports.
Yeah, Phillies won as well. Phillies got the dub.
Saw that.
So maybe we can root with each other instead of, me always having to come onto these shows and be like, I'm sorry, Neil, the Vikings lost.
The problem is that my teams just always lose. So that's part of the problem is that you can't cheer that long for them typically. But first win out of the way, I feel pretty good. Twins have a shot here, at least to get through one round.
I'm happy for you. And I'm glad you guys are hanging out with us on a Wednesday morning. So 2 things. One, I'm Dave Loughran and Loughran_D on the Twitter, LOUGHY_D. That's Neil Orfield at PlayerQDFS. And the way that we do this, if you're new to this channel, if you're new to the show, we don't hit quarterbacks on this slate like we would on the first look show, because we're going to get into that when we talk about top stacks. And really, when we're talking about receivers as well, you're going to get a pretty good impression of where we're going. But we'll get to quarterback ownership, top stack probability, and all of that in the top stacks. We'll go position by position, look at the chalkiest plays, look at the guys that we think aren't getting enough ownership, and see if we can find some, good spots along the way to maybe get some leverage over the field. And fortunately, to guide us each and every week, we have the stochastic ownership projections. We have the boom bust tool. We have all of these tools, the top stacks tools, to put us on our way in the right direction. But first, Neil, it's time to break down week 4 and just take a look at the winner from the Millie Maker. And I like to look at the SPY as well. It's a single entry, big one. Mid stakes, $100 entry, 500K, 100K up top. So check this out. First off, one thing we've been noticing a lot of lately, and Ben and I talked about this extensively on the podcast exclusive episode yesterday, single entry, 3-max strategy. We use the post-contest simulator to review all of the winning lineups and all of our lineups. You guys will love it. We keep it under 30 minutes. It's only available in podcast form. I promise you'll love that show. It's one of my favorite shows to do. So if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the pod. Leave a rating and a review too. That helps us in a big way. But even if you don't, come check it out. All this stuff is in podcast form, but we have 2 podcast exclusive NFL strategy shows every week, 25, 30 minutes. I think you're going to love them. Michael T0717, single entry. If you look at the top of the Millie this week, it was just littered with single entries, 2 entries. He had Josh Allen at 6%, Christian McCaffrey at 25%, Khalil Herbert at 3%. That's a great 3% play, really.
Really great.
Adam Thielen at 29, Nico Collins at 7, Stephon Diggs at 13, Chalk Freiermuth, that is wild, 15%. Michael Wilson at 0.3% against the Niners, and the Chargers at 6% with Aiden O'Connell in place of Jimmy Garoppolo. There's nothing that crazy here. And it's yet again, looking at this lineup, it's a single stack that won it without a run back.
Yep, single stack without a run back. But then what I'm also noticing here is a couple of different secondary correlations. So you've got, as you said, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, nobody running it back from Miami. But then you've also got Pat Freiermuth and Nico Collins in the same game facing each other. And you've got Christian McCaffrey and Michael Wilson in the same game facing each other. So we actually have a lot of correlation within this lineup, just not within the primary stack. The primary stack, just a single stack, no run back. And then some secondary stacks, which, secondary stacks, not something that I typically focus on a ton in my lineups. Maybe it's a leak. I don't know that we've seen it win all that often this year, but certainly last week, the secondary stacks helped out quite a bit here. So yeah, awesome lineup here.
It is. It's a good lineup, and you've seen a lot of these single stacks winning lately. You really have seen a lot of single stacks without run backs, and we've also seen a couple times now wide receiver running back without the quarterback taking things down. So
past couple of years, we've seen it a good amount.
Yeah. There's teams too that you can do that with. Some of them are more expensive than others, but like we saw Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert win the Millie, or one of the big single entries last week. We've seen it quite a bit, right? And there are some teams that you can do that with. Ben mentioned in the single entry pod, not to give it away, but like, what about going Mixon and Jamar Chase this week if Higgins is out without Joe Burrow? Raiders aren't on this slate, but you can always make that argument with Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
So yeah. All in King 17. Here's the winning spy lineup, Neil. Josh Allen. Have you seen this yet?
No.
Okay. Listen up. This one's wild. Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey. So those were two kind of staples of this slate with most lineups. Devon Achane at 6%. Nico Collins again. Stephon Diggs again. Ravens defense. I'm going backwards here. Josh Palmer, Dalton Kincaid, Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin had like 5.5 fantasy points. Kincaid had 6 or something. Palmer had 10. This dude just went pure, like 200 points almost, or whatever it was, between Allen, McCaffrey, Achane, and Nico Collins and Diggs. And then it was Austin, Kincaid, and Palmer. There were just 3 guys who were there. You essentially could have plugged anyone in that price range and won with this build.
Yeah, he just hit the absolute nuts at the top. This is insane. Look at it. Yeah. And so you do have the double stack with the bring back in this one, which, I guess the single stack in the bring back was certainly good with Allen, Diggs, and then Achane coming back. Dalton Kincaid, he probably could have thrown out there at tight end, but we also didn't get that many great tight end performances once again. So it didn't really hurt him to have Kincaid in there with the double stack. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. But we do have, once again, we've got Austin with Nico Collins. So a little bit of correlation there that obviously we didn't need because Austin didn't really do anything with it. But interesting to see this one super correlated, double stack with a bring back plus a secondary stack. Both very correlated lineups winning here.
Any other thoughts on week 4 before we keep this one going and take a look into week 5?
It's hard to take much away sometimes from these weeks where it's just like, okay, you needed to have these 3 players, and if you did, you're going to have a real shot at winning. And if you didn't, like you don't. Like there were just some players that really separated this week, which we haven't seen as much this year. Like week 1, I felt like we didn't really have anybody separate from what I recall all that much. So pretty interesting to see. Week 4, we just had some players that was like, yeah, you needed to have Stephon Diggs to have a real shot at winning one of these large field tournaments, or Christian McCaffrey. Like you kind of needed those guys, and then just hope for the best with the rest. Hopefully we don't see that this week, and you need to have more throughout your lineup instead of just having like you hit on these 4 pieces and you're good.
Malevolent Elephant with the check mark in here said, feel like the winning lineup is going to be contrarian AF this week. I just looked up your channel, by the way, dude. You got a ton of views in some of these. I'm a big Elephant fan myself, by the way.
That's an NBA Top Shot kind of username. Were you ever part of that, Laffy? Like when you sign up for Top Shot, they give you a username and it's always something like Malevolent
Elephant. Course. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Same with Google Sheets and Docs and stuff. It's like, if you go in and look who's in it, like say a run sheet or something.
Oh, that's right. If you're sharing it.
Yeah, it would be like Anonymous Possum or something.
Right.
He's got some videos with like 5, 3, 2 million views.
Damn.
Are you monetized on that? Just curious. Not to get us off topic, Mr. Malevolent Elephant. Are you monetized on those based on where the footage has come from? Elephants are the coolest animal in the world, though, Neil, just so you know.
I'm a Tufts Jumbo, so I'm right there with you. That was my college mascot, the Tufts Jumbos. So
Really?
I love elephants. They're super smart. They're like, yeah, they're cool. I'm with you. I love elephants.
Yeah, they're super smart too.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
They're compassionate. I've seen videos of elephants saving other elephants. They're just they're great creatures.
it's crazy. Uh, I believe they're also the only animal to mourn their dead.
Is that right? That's a
Yeah,
fun elephant fact that I did not know.
I believe it's true. Anyway, good stuff. Let's talk about it, baby. Week in review is in the books. Now it's time to talk about running back. So I don't think there's many wrong answers at running back this week. There are so many good running backs, which is funny because there aren't a ton at the top. I mean, you've got Bijan Robinson, who's in a really good spot. I actually like the Falcons' run game this week quite a bit against the Texans. I think this is a comeback down the earth spot potentially for Houston, assuming Atlanta doesn't get out to an early deficit as they did in each of the last two games. Robinson's, mid 7K. He's dominant. And when you look at his snap counts, there's something that really stands out. You look at the first two games that they had. He still got more snaps than Tyler Algier, but he had 39 touches to Algier's 34. You look over the last two games, granted they were playing from behind, but now you're talking 33 touches to Algier's 7. He's had 5+ targets in every game. His snap count, 81 and 76% over the last two games. Algier, 30 to 26%. I mean, really dramatic split there. Of course, games that they were playing from behind, but I still think he's just too good to keep off the field at this point. 20+ touches for Robinson in this game. And make no mistake about it, guys. I love what Houston's doing. This run defense is still very suspect. All right, still very suspect. I think Bijan Robinson could eat him alive this week. Where are you going at the top of the position?
Yeah, no, I love the call on Bijan. We've got him 19% projected ownership, 20% chance being optimal. Looks great. I kind of want to take an early victory lap on after week one, saying Tyler Algier that week, that was going to be his highest score of the season. That was my hot take after week one. However, I think that if he's ever going to beat his week one score, it would be this week against Houston. Like he could get a little bit more involved. So I don't really want to take my early victory lap just yet on the Tyler Algier. Might not be what we saw in week one. But
I think you can victory lap that after we see them with one or two games with real positive game scripts again. Then I think you could definitely victory lap that because it's appearing to be the case.
Yeah, it's appearing to be the case, but he's still involved enough. And I bring up Algier, not for the early victory lap, to point out that he's coming in at under 1% ownership against this Houston defense at 4,700. I think that he's something that I hadn't thought about before the show. Honestly, when I was talking about getting ugly before the show, I was mostly talking about the stacks. But Tyler Algier is sort of interesting to me at sub 1% projected ownership against this Houston run defense that is very much a run fall. I mean, Atlanta could run the ball just 45 times this game, and I wouldn't be shocked against this Houston defense. So I like both of them. I don't know that I would play them in the same lineup, but I don't know that I wouldn't either. I might consider it on this slate, playing both Algier and Bijan. We do as you said, we've got a lot of running backs that are kind of interesting here, so probably not something that I'm really going overboard on. But I think both Atlanta backs very interesting. Outside of those two, at the top, we've got Derrick Henry, 9% projected ownership. I have Derrick Henry in a keeper league, and I'm thinking about selling him because I really just don't think he's going to be that great overall this year. We've got him against the Colts, who are 16th in rush DVOA, so pretty neutral spot here. The Titans just have a 20 implied team, 20.25 implied team total. I don't know that I really want to go there. Bijan certainly standing out to me. Do you think Saquon plays this week? I guess we kind of have to answer that question before we can really delve into, because
I do think he plays. Yeah.
I think he probably does too. I would lean towards Saquon playing this week. And the Giants playing against the Dolphins, who were 29th in terms of rush DVOA. Now, who knows if the Giants, I don't know if Andrew Thomas is going to be back this week. That would certainly help quite a bit. Their offensive line looks so bad in the last game that it looked like they're never going to get anything going. But if Andrew Thomas is back in particular, I'm going to have a lot of interest in Saquon Barkley at reduced ownership. We currently have him projected for 3% ownership. Obviously, that would change if we get confirmation that he's in. But sort of interesting there. I'd say I guess those two. There's kind of a break after those three in terms of salary. Saquon, Bijan, Derrick Henry. Big break down to the next tier there.
Yeah, unless I mean Jonathan Taylor might play, but
Yeah.
I don't think he does. Even if he does, I'm not going to Jonathan Taylor against Tennessee. I
Yeah.
don't see that being a necessary spot. Kyron Williams, Ronnie Rivers actually got some work last game. For the first time all season, he saw 9 carries and racked up 28% of the snaps. I do wonder, though, given that Sean McVay after the game mentioned that Williams suffered a bruised hip, I wonder if that had something to do with it. But he still, it doesn't matter because he played 72% of snaps. And I guess, you know what, also, they had 82 snaps in that game. So yeah, maybe you want to give him a bit of a rest. He still had 25 carries and 3 receptions. I mean, just
Yeah.
massive volume there. I don't like this run game this week against the Eagles. I don't. It legitimately concerns me. But I think on volume alone, Kyron Williams is viable. He is getting some ownership, though. A few of the other guys that are getting ownership, Miles Sanders, just wipe him off the board at this point. I'm not doing it. I haven't been. What's that?
But he might have been in. Like I think his injury may have impacted
He's
last
been
week.
horrible.
Has he? I thought he's had a couple like pretty decent games. Nothing like huge.
He's
but,
averaging less than 3 yards per attempt. Like he's not good.
Oh yeah, from an efficiency standpoint, yeah, he's not any good. I mean, just from a DFS standpoint, like actually getting, just because of the volume he was getting early on, he looked okay. But yeah, at this point, hard to really.
Look, I get it. I'm clearly being dramatic here. I'm overreacting. But when I say he's not good, I mean the reason anyone liked him last year was because you're running behind behemoths on that offensive line for Philly. It's possible that groin limited him in this game. Certainly possible. Like the same touches as Chuba Hubbard. I don't know, man. You know, another thing I don't like about Miles Sanders is they seem intent on forcing him into the passing game. He's not a good pass catching back. That's another issue. He's not that good.
Sure.
Like, even look at the production, look at the targets. Those targets are valuable without question. He's only dropped 1 or 2 passes this season. Maybe I'm overreacting to this. It's just, you look at all of these games, he still isn't doing anything significant in the passing game. I don't know, man. There's so many running backs that if Sanders is going to, if you were telling me Sanders is 5% this week, I'd have a lot more interest than telling me, hey, he's going to be 12, 13% owned on a 10-game slate against a Detroit defense that is clearly much better than they were last year. Maybe I'm far off here, but I just haven't seen anything about Miles Sanders through 4 weeks that would suggest to me that he is due for a monster breakout game. Crazy coming from me.
That is. I mean, the biggest Miles Sanders homer out there. Everybody knows that Lofty loves Miles Sanders. Can't get enough. Always wants to talk about him.
But it was because of the Eagles.
Well, that's obviously, why. Yeah. Now that he's off the Eagles, you're like, I'm never playing him again. Now that he's no.
It was because the Eagles are actually good.
No, so to be clear, I disagree with your point about just being off of Miles Sanders going forward, but for this week, I'm totally with you. I'm not playing Miles Sanders against Detroit at 12% ownership. I don't think that's a spot that I'm going to get to very much at all. I was confused for a second why you jumped from like the top tier down to Miles Sanders. Now I realize you're sorting by ownership rather than by salary.
And Bijan Robinson's popular this week. He's one of the most popular running backs on the slate. That was why, by the way.
Right. So I was just sorted differently, and I was like, I don't know how we got to Miles Sanders, why we're talking. Lofty just loves talking about Miles Sanders. Now I understand why.
I was shocked to see that he's 12.5% right now.
No, yeah, I'm with you. That is way too much ownership, and our tools agree with you. We've got him optimal 5% of the time at 12% ownership. Just looks like a stay away spot for me.
Not crazy, Neil.
Yeah, no disagreement from you. I'm not on Miles Sanders this week. I'm just saying going forward, like I don't really care that he's inefficient if they continue to give him the volume. And like the fact that he's not a great pass catcher, like they're not throwing to him down the field. They're typically just throwing to him short anyway. So you don't need to be that great.
They should be throwing to him down the field, by the way. He's actually pretty sweet on wheel routes.
Yeah, that's true. In Philly, he had a few that were really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, not really interested there this week. Not really interested in Kyron this week. The efficiency just not there. I guess I have the impression that Javonte Williams is probably going to miss this week. We haven't taken him out yet. I think he's still questionable, so we don't know for sure. But currently we have Javonte Williams getting a ton of ownership. I would want none of that, I think, at 5,500.
I don't want that backfield even if he's out. I don't even think I want McLaughlin.
What is McLaughlin's price? We got he's 5,000. Yeah, I would like if McLaughlin was the stone min, that would pique my interest at 5,000. I
Sure.
don't think I'm going there against the Jets
I want to
either.
know
So
what
yeah.
you're doing with Joe Mixon. And then I want to get into the Miami backfield, but let's start with Mixon this week.
Yeah, so we have Joe Mixon vastly underowned. We have him at 21% ownership, 27% chance of being optimal. I think I'll get probably close to the field. Like that's high enough ownership that I don't think I'm going to jam it despite the positive leverage. But yeah, running backs against the Bengals seems like a spot that you're always going to want. They're 27th in terms of rush. So, yeah, sorry, against the Cardinals. Cardinals are 27th in terms of rush DVOA. The Bengals only favored by 3 here against the Cardinals. That's how bad Joe Burrow's this offense has looked this year. It's not pretty, but assuming they're just going to feed the rock to Mixon a little bit more, as you can do against this Bengals defense, the ownership makes a lot of sense to me. The 21% ownership, that he is the second highest owned player on the slate. As I said, makes a lot of sense. He's 6,400. He's too cheap for his volume and the spot. Yeah, I'm probably going to be even to over the field. I don't think I'm going to be underweight to the field on Joe Mixon. What are you going to do there?
I've not loved Joe Mixon this season, but I do like him this week. You know, one of the things you got to consider, I consider, you don't have to do anything, but one of the things that I always try and consider in spots like this is like, all right, you're looking at his price point. This offense has been wildly inefficient. I mean, just terrible. But how much is Mixon getting of the workload? That's the thing about Sanders that bothers me is, yes, he still should be the lead guy, assuming that. And by the way, I don't know how long a groin injury is going to linger, but, you know, even if it's like a 60-40 Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, I need Sanders getting a lot. Joe Mixon, even though this team has been bad, first of all, he's averaging 4.2 yards per attempt, which, given how bad the offense is in the passing game, isn't actually that bad. Joe Burrow's averaging under 4 yards per pass attempt. That is the lowest of any quarterback ever since they've been tracking this through their first 4 games.
Why did they not? They should have sat him for the first 4 games.
They should have.
Jamar Chase came out and said, don't play the first 4 games. That made all the sense in the world to me. I was like, yeah, he's clearly going to be hobbled. Let him get right before he starts playing. And now the season appears to be lost. Like he's just going to be playing through it, not playing well. They're going to be trash, at least for like the first half of the season. So I do not understand.
And you know what, Neil? They probably would have the same record. They'd probably be going into week 5 at 1-3 with a healthy Joe Burrow.
Right. Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can sneak out a win. It's the NFL. You can sneak out a 1-3 start. But here's what I'm getting at. Despite all of the mess and just the disgusting football we've seen from the Bengals this year, listen to the attempts for the backfield in Cincinnati. Travion Williams, 4. Chris Evans, 2. Chase Brown, 1. Joe Mixon, 59.
Yeah.
There's no split there whatsoever. Win or lose, good or bad, Joe Mixon's backfield through and through, and he's involved as a pass catcher, and he has a quarterback that's afraid to throw more than 3 yards downfield. I mean, all of that last part sounds bad, understandably, but in this spot against Arizona, I will go right back to 6,400. I think is just too good of a price point. I agree with the tools here. I like him.
Yeah, no, he looks fantastic. Does he only have? Oh, he had 1 target last week. Okay, I was thinking he only had 1 target on the year. No, that's not right. Yeah, hard not to like Joe Mixon in this spot at this price tag. Like he should be 7,200 would probably be a fair price tag for Joe Mixon in this particular matchup with his volume. So, yeah, the only downside there is the ownership. But as I said, according to the Boom Bust tool, as of right now, obviously this changes throughout the week. We're going to get more information, players in, players out. That'll affect things. But currently, we've got him 21% ownership, and that is too low. We have him 27% chance to be an optimal. So Joe Mixon looks great. Bijan Robinson looks great. I think both great spots.
What are you going to end up doing with the Miami backfield if this ownership stays consistent throughout the week up until Sunday? Devon Achane, I'm just going to call him A-Chain. 23%. No disrespect, but it's too much work on my end to get that correct every time. A-Chain at 23%. Raheem Mostert, what's up?
How is that too much work? Just start saying A-Chain instead of A-Chain. How is that too much work for you to just say A-Chain instead of A-Chain?
Mental hurdles, dude. I don't want to have to.
I think you can get at some point during his career. I think you'll get there.
I don't think it's fair that he sprung that on us, actually.
I guess he had all four. I guess I don't know how many years he played college. He had his college career to get it right. It
Yeah.
was kind of funny the way he sprung it on us. But I mean,
I actually think, I honestly think with Devon A-Chain that it is, it's something where you can't just ask that and expect people to do it. I think if you want to do it, that's fine. If you want to abide by that, you know.
it's his name. Like he's just telling us how to pronounce his name. I think that's a reasonable request. And it's not like a super complicated name. It looks slightly different than you say it, but like Chan is not difficult to say. It's not like it's a 7-syllable name that he's like, you guys need to get this right.
Couldn't disagree more. If you were doing shows with me for 4 years, and I was
By
like,
the way,
no,
it's nil. Oh, yeah.
No, and I'm like,
Dave.
Yeah, it's Dave, or even like it's Louis. It's not Laffy. Why? Like people have been calling me Laffy forever. I mean, that's weird, guys. Stop it. And I tell you, at this age, after this many years, and you kept calling me Laffy, you would have every right to do so.
He's also a rookie. Like, you know, we haven't been saying his name for that long.
You know what? He missed the boat. Anyway, what are you doing with Devon A-Chain and Raheem Mostert if the ownership split really is 23% A-Chain and Raheem Mostert at 10%?
Yeah, I think I'm still going to be preferring. I mean, Achane was more involved last week. He ran 25 routes to Mostert's 13. Mostert had a couple fumbles, which you got to wonder, like, is that going to scare them away from playing Mostert? Is Achane just going to be the guy going forward? So it kind of makes sense to me that suddenly Achane is looking, getting more ownership. Like he's kind of like, based on the usage last week, it seems to be warranted. He was used in the red zone. Yeah, I don't know. So he's 6,100. We have what do we have Mostert at price tag wise? 6,200. Man, yeah, it's hard to make a great case for Raheem Mostert other than that's still just one game sample size during a game when Raheem Mostert fumbled multiple times. Also, and 11% ownership, like it's not that I'm like super interested in Raheem Mostert at 11% ownership. I'm trying to think of, do I really want to play 23% Devin Achane? And I think the answer is maybe. Like I think that I'm not going to be far off. Like I think I would guess that I'm going to come in a little bit underweight to the field. We've got him with a 20% chance to be an optimal, so slight negative leverage. It is a nice spot against this Giants defense, and it is a game that I'm very interested in. So yeah, I honestly think the ownership probably fair on Achane. My guess is that I come in a little bit underweight to the field on Raheem Mostert. Partially just because the tools would lead me that way. 11% project ownership, 6% chance to be an optimal. I don't know. I haven't really decided exactly what I'm doing with this spot yet for these Dolphins backs, but it's obviously a great spot. They have a over 30 implied team total for the Dolphins. Both these guys have been pretty involved, and Achane looked like he was potentially taking over the back. I don't know if we can say it for sure, but it looked like as of week 4, he seemed to be kind of taking over the backfield a little bit in Miami. So I think the ownership is fair, but there are enough spots that I would guess that I'm underweight to the field on Mostert. I would guess that I probably end up underweight to the field on both. The only reason that I'm hesitant is because I love the game so much that I could see them being my bringbacks in some stacks as well. So not 100% positive, but just like in a vacuum, I would say I'm probably going to be underweight to the field in non-game stacks.
Okay. If the ownership difference is this vast and maybe expands even more because their prices are so similar, I feel like I want to go back to Raheem Mostert. Ben mentioned this yesterday, and I think it's a good point. Devon Achane has been awesome, but he's also averaging like 11.5 yards per attempt.
Yeah, it's unsustainable.
It's completely unsustainable. He's looked awesome, man, and he's broke off some huge runs. You know, if he gets 2.5 times the ownership or whatever of Mostert, I think I would be okay being a little overweight on Mostert and underweight on Devon Achane, but we'll see. I don't know. There's just a lot of good plays here. DeAndre Swift at 12%. That game has a 50.5 point total. He was once again heavily involved last week. I think you could see that shift even more. Played 63% of snaps. which is the most he has all season. I'm not including week 2 when Kenny Gainwell was out, but 54 to 46 in week 3, 63 to 38 to Swift. He was also targeted many times, 4 times. And I mentioned yesterday on the show, there was one target downfield. I don't know if it was a wheel route or he just lined up outside. My guess is it was a wheel route, but down the sidelines, the defender held him and prevented what would have been a really long touchdown. It was actually a smart penalty. So he even got a downfield shot there. They started using him in more unique ways in week 4. Swift at 6K at 12%. To me, totally fine with that. Alvin Kamara could be interesting just because of the volume we saw last week. Who knows how much of that was Derek Carr's shoulder not being right?
Yeah.
I don't hate James Conner at 11% either. I mean, among a lot of these high-owned guys, or I think let's say 10+% owned guys, I think there's a lot of different ways you can go here and feel pretty decent about it. But here's where I want to go with you, right? Isaiah Pacheco, 7% against Minnesota. Clear number 1 last week. McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire saw 3 carries each, 1 target each. Pacheco saw 20 carries in that game. Breece Hall is 5.7% right now against the Broncos defense that has been annihilated week over week. Montgomery is 6%. What are you doing with the low-owned plays that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, so love Breece Hall, 5,400. We've seen he can bust off those explosive runs despite his injury. He's had some super long runs, and as you said, that Broncos defense it looks like they're lost out there. So even if they have talented personnel, they look like a defense that just does not understand what they're doing right now, and teams have just been crushing them. So 5,400, Breece Hall, who has shown the ability to take advantage of broken defenses. That's really interesting to me at low ownership, 6% projected ownership. So yeah, totally love Breece Hall here. We have him a little bit under owned in the boom bust tool as well. Love David Montgomery here at 6% ownership. I don't understand how David Montgomery can be 6% owned. Now, he had 32 carries in the last game, so I don't know that is going to hold up, but man, that is
a career high.
Yeah, I mean, that's an insane amount of who gets 32 carries at the stage of his career. But now he gets the Panthers defense ranked 32nd against the rush. So hard not to have interest in David Montgomery. I'm kind of shocked by the low ownership there going to David Montgomery. Have we part of me thinks that we've overcorrected to people not wanting to play players after a blow up game. It's something that I always avoid. And then it's occasionally we'll come back to bite you. Maybe this is a spot where people won't want to play David Montgomery following the blow up game, but he's in about as good of a spot as you can possibly ask for. So it scares me a little bit. Pacheco looks fine. I'm never excited to play Isaiah Pacheco, but 7% ownership against this Vikings defense, 5,700, given his workload, you can't, it's tough to argue that it's wrong. 7% ownership feels about right. We've got him at 7.2% chance of being in the optimal. So yeah, looks about right there. I think this is kind of the range that really stands out to me. As you said, DeAndre Swift looks like he's in a great spot against the Rams, getting a ton of work behind that Philly offensive line. Hard not to like DeAndre. So if there's just a million spots that look really good here. So you don't really have to go to super ugly spots because there are so many great spots. I don't know what I'm doing with Jahmyr Gibbs. So I just talked about Dave Montgomery. You think there's a case to be made that maybe Jahmyr Gibbs sees more workload this week because Dave Montgomery got 32 carries last week? They don't want to give him, I would think they don't want to give him 32 carries every week. So maybe they get Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more involved to save David Montgomery a little bit, and he's 5,900, also getting 6% ownership. Doesn't look nearly as good in the tools as David Montgomery does, but we actually have a little bit of positive leverage on Jahmyr Gibbs as well. Certainly a defense that you can take advantage of for all these running backs. So I think I'll go to some Jahmyr Gibbs as well. Yeah, there's a lot of great spots here.
Really good spots. N8P, maybe it's Nate P. He said A-Chain, perfect example of playing him right after his blow up. Yeah, I mean, that's a good example. One thing I like to do when it comes to blow-ups, and I don't know if this is the right or wrong approach, but I think a coach really matters in a spot like this. If it's somebody that, is going to run with the guy that's the hot hand week over, depending on the game, then getting away from a guy coming off a monster blow-up spot seems to be a good decision. Yeah. That's why I think the whole A-Chain Mostert thing, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Raheem Mostert got a lot of work this week. Mike McDaniel is, just schizophrenic in that sense. And it's not a bad thing. It's just hard to predict. I don't think Dan Campbell's necessarily the same way. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like they really want to use David Montgomery as the guy right now, especially early in the season.
It does feel that way. Yeah, I agree. Like I was thinking about that. Like, is Dan Campbell really going to take his foot off the gas? He doesn't seem like that type. So I'm with you. He seems that way, but remains to be seen. And I just want to clarify with Raheem Mostert. It's not that I don't like, if he were coming in at 3% ownership, I would have a ton of interest. It's just that he's already getting 11% ownership. So it's like, I don't know, the regression to more work for Mostert appears to be already kind of baked in a little bit. That makes the reason sense. I don't love it.
Let's talk wide receivers here, man. Loaded at every position. Before we do though, guys, sometimes you may not listen to these ads. I get it. These ad reads, I get it. But if you're in the state of Colorado or New Jersey or Virginia or Iowa or Kentucky or Ohio, you want to listen. Those of you who are the unfortunate ones not residing in these states, please take a moment. Go grab a drink, a water preferably. It's early in the morning. Go take a leak, whatever needs to be done. But if you're in Colorado, Ohio, New Jersey, Kentucky, Iowa, or Virginia, BetMGM's giving you $365 when you sign up and bet Bet365, sorry. When you bet $1 and get $365. I put the link to Bet365 in the description. Jordan can throw it in the chat. Here's what you do. Take 2 minutes of your day. Many of us have busy days, understandable. But despite how busy or crazy it may be, set aside 2 minutes to make $365 in the matter of minutes. You click the link, you sign up. Takes a couple minutes. All you do, deposit $10, get verified, place a bet down. All you have to do though is bet $1. So 10% of the $10 that you put down. My recommendation, do a wild parlay. Do 1,000 to 1 odds. Who cares? Because if you lose it, you're getting $365 from Bet365. If you win, you're getting paid out massive on a dollar bet, and you're getting $365 in bet credits from Bet365. Guys, easiest way to make money. Any other time in life, this offer comes across your table, and it's like, oh, you get $365 for $1? You snap, take that. Colorado, Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Kentucky, and Iowa. Those are the 6 states. Jump in, $365 on a $1 bet. Do a massive parlay. And plus, if you hit that, let us know, please. That would be awesome. Let us know because that would be incredible. Link in the description and in chat if you're in any of those 6 states. These disappear quickly. They pop up randomly with Bet365. It's there now. Take advantage while you can. All right, let's talk about wide receiver position. How about some of the chalk here, Neil? Jamar Chase. And by the way, I don't think T. Higgins plays. Just one man's opinion. I'm not a fantasy doctor. Yeah, some of those fantasy doctors are fucking hilarious too. So when do you have time to be a doctor? On Twitter,
I don't think they
YouTube.
are. They're not real. They're not real doctors. They're just fantasy doctors.
They say that they got like they got everything on the back on the wall.
Oh,
you know, they got the degree. But I'm just saying, it's like when do you have time to practice medicine? You're too busy. You're too busy talking about Zach Moss. But besides the point, we have Higgins at 15%. We haven't projected in. Don't blame that at all. We don't know right now. He said he's not going to miss a lot of time. He said he might not even miss this week. They said it might be a pain tolerance thing. My guess is he misses 1 week, if I had to guess. But we already have Chase as the highest owned receiver right now. That's going to look crazy if T. Higgins is out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought we had T. Higgins out. I'm refreshing right now because I'm not seeing him in mine. Maybe I'm
well, then maybe we updated it. When was the last update?
So I just refreshed. So I'll see what we have. You said we have him at 15% ownership. It's 35 minutes ago.
Oh, that's why then. We must have taken him out. Because this morning when I did this, he was in.
Gotcha. Yeah. So currently we have T. Higgins out and we have Jamar Chase up at 24% projected ownership, which
makes sense.
So we have Jamar Chase at 24% projected ownership, 25% chance of being optimal. I don't really know that I trust it. Like the offense looks so broken there for the Bengals that it's really hard for me to want to play a 24% owned Jamar Chase. Like he's still been getting the volume this year. They're playing against this Cardinals defense, but with Joe Burrow like so clearly hobbled, I think I feel more confident in Mixon than I do in Jamar Chase, which maybe feels a little bit foolish in a PPR setting like DraftKings, where Chase is still being peppered with targets. But man, I don't know. I just like given this ownership, it's really hard for me to have a ton of interest. I guess I had not factored in that we do have Jamar Chase at 7,900 relative to Justin Jefferson at 9,400. So I guess the price tag has come down. Maybe that is the reason that he's getting so much ownership on top of T Higgins being out. Like clearly not priced for T Higgins being out, but I don't know that I can. I don't know that I can go above weight to the field on Jamar Chase while Joe Burrow is this hobbled. Like I don't know. I feel like I need to see it from the Bengals. Maybe that's foolish. Like usually you want to get there before the field gets there, but we've already got the field there at 24%. So I don't know. I don't think I can do it with Jamar Chase. I think I'm going to be underweight to the field there. Do you think I'm crazy for not trusting the Joe Burrow calf enough?
I feel like when it comes to Chase, and I just could be way off base, but like I either want to be really overweight or really underweight on Chase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you're really underweight on him and he just drops another 8-point game, you look really, really good.
Yep.
If you're really overweight on him and he just happens to blow up, because he already, to be fair, in week 3 against the Rams, 12 receptions on 15 targets, 141 yards. Here's my line of thinking. If T Higgins sits, how does Jamar Chase not get like 20 targets in this game? Like, how does he not get there on volume alone?
I guess the answer is they're playing the Cardinals, and they like the Bengals can see that Joe Burrow's broken. Like they could just run him into the ground with Joe Mixon. So I think that is the route to Jamar Chase not getting 20 targets is just they just run it more, like even more this game. They just focus on the ground game against the Cardinals. Maybe try and slow it down a little bit, not use Joe Burrow too much. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It feels like a spot where he's going to be just targeted a ton in this game. It's just like Joe Burrow not throwing the ball far. Like you're taking away some of the upside of Jamar Chase. Of course, he's been playing some slot. He's been getting just a ton of targets. Just short field. It's just I don't know. He needs to really break one, I think, to pay off this. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe like if he gets 20 targets, maybe he can just have 15 carries and get there with the PPR, the yardage, and the catches. But I don't know if the field's going to be there. If the field were not there, I would say, yeah, sure, sign me up for some Jamar Chase. But with the field being at 24%, it's just hard for me to want to get up there. I think I'm going to be underweight to the field. So if you're taking the stance of being way overweight or way underweight, I would be way underweight on Jamar Chase.
Makes sense. I kind of like the idea of Higgins sits of going Chase Mixon with no Burrow.
Yeah, I could see that. Just hope for the PPR from Chase and then Mixon getting the 100-yard bonus and a touchdown kind of thing.
It's possible, yeah. Like Mixon runs 2 in and Chase scores and has like all of the work in the passing game. It's not to say that Tyler Boyd won't be used, but already a pretty concentrated target share between a lot of those guys. GC Samurai, is Higgins even playing? We don't know. I don't think he will. I don't think he plays.
I lean that way too. I think he's out, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But then you've got Justin Jefferson against the Chiefs. It's just so tough at some of these price points. 21%. He's an amazing play, neck and neck with Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the league. Tyreek Hill's 15% owned on a site like this.
I mean, so, you know my feelings on Jefferson. He just clearly is the number 1 receiver in the league.
Yeah, you're a homer.
Yeah, well, maybe a little bit, but like it's not a hot take. Like a lot of people, I think majority of people would agree that he is the best receiver in the league. I think he's kind of getting lost because of Tyreek Hill's big spike week in week 1. But man, J-Jets has just been consistently amazing.
Yeah,
this
he's
year.
Awesome, amazingly consistent. I just enjoy watching Hill play more.
He's fat. Like it's a fun offense there in Miami. Just like all the speed guys, like it's just fun to watch them. So I get that. I understand that.
But also Tyree, like both of these guys any given week can go for 200 plus yards. That's all that matters. Like forget about who's the best. Both of these guys any given week could go for 200 plus yards.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of whether or not you want to pay for them. Tyreek Hill this week. This is kind of interesting because Tua actually the only player to get the ball out quicker this year is Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow is getting the ball out quick, not in a good way.
Right.
Tua is getting the ball out quick. And on throws under 2.5 minutes, where he's in the pocket for under 2.5 seconds, he has like 9 touchdowns to 1 interception or something stupid, right? Joe Burrow just, there's nothing going on there. So The Giants blitz at a really heavy clip, but what better defense is there, man? Or what better offense is there? Sorry, 6 touchdowns to 1 interception when he's under 2.5 seconds. What better offense is there just to get the ball out early to Mostert, to Hill, to Waddle, to Achane, like any of those guys?
No, absolutely. Like it is. I think it's probably the most fun offense in the league. Even after the loss to Buffalo, man, that Miami offense is just, it's really, really cool to see all these speedsters getting to work. And Hill, we've got slightly under owned, 15% projected ownership, 16% chance of being optimal. Great spot against that Giants team. Hopefully the Giants can keep it close and force Miami to, I guess it doesn't matter that Miami kept their foot on the gas all the way to 70 points against the Broncos. So maybe it doesn't even matter if New York keeps it close, but yeah, you're going to, Hill's going to look great here against the Giants as well. I think you can play both. Like we've got Jefferson, 21% projected ownership, 21% chance of being optimal. As I said, Hill, 15% projected ownership, 16% chance of being optimal. So, and both like in spots where, I mean, Hill just facing a bad Giants defense, Jefferson facing a kind of middling Chiefs defense, but like it's still a great spot because the Vikings are just going to need to try to air it out to try to keep up with the Chiefs. So from that perspective, great spot for Jefferson as well. I like both. I'm trying to decide who I think that I actually might like Hill better this week just because of the matchup with the Giants, the lower price tag and the lower ownership, but both look pretty good in this spot here. Hard to go wrong with Hill or Jefferson. Puka, man, like it's like seeing Puka up at 7,700 and 20% ownership. My gut tells me like, no, just don't go to Puka. Hope that it falls off. But like the volume has been so elite, and Puka has been so elite so far through 4 games. He looks legit, but against this Eagles defense, I don't know. I think that I'm probably not going to be playing a ton of Puka here, where he's getting ownership. If you were not getting ownership, it'd be interesting. But at 20% ownership, I think that I'm out on Puka largely this week. What do you think of that as a stand, being underweight on Puka?
We assume that Cooper Kupp misses another week.
Yeah.
I saw a headline on Twitter the other day, or just online, like Rams Wire or something, and it said, will the return of Cooper Kupp hinder Puka Nacua's progress?
I know, that is so insane.
Like, dude, if I said something like that to you before the season started, you might go all the way up top and go, listen, I'm not sure I can do shows with this guy this year.
Right.
Like I'm not sure I want to be associated with him. Like if I told you that was in any realm a possibility, and now it's like, hey, is bringing back the guy that was largely considered the best or a top 3 receiver in the league when healthy, is bringing him back going to hurt the progress of this 5th round rookie or whatever it is? I mean, is that amazing or what?
Just hilarious. What a hilarious headline. Yeah. I've been having a lot of
on Kupp either. It's not an indictment on Kupp, but it's just like nobody thought Puka Nacua would be as good as he's been.
No, he has been insane. It'll be really interesting to see the way things go after Kupp comes back, because I don't know, like Stafford, can he support 2 receivers? Like he's just been so good at supporting one guy that he just peppers with targets. I think he can. For the record, I think that both are going to be very good going forward. Probably neither of them is going to be as elite as they have been at their peak. Like Kupp probably not going to be as good as he was last year, with Puka there probably taking some of the target volume. And similarly, once Kupp comes back, Puka's going to lose some of his volume as well. But I think both are going to be, so I don't think they're both going to be consistent assets, but I think they're both going to have enough spike weeks to still be like top tier wide receivers going forward. But yeah, the conversations around Puka have been interesting. I've been talking with some of my fantasy football friends about who do you prefer in Dynasty going forward, JSN or Puka Nacua? Like, would you trade, if you had JSN, would you trade him straight up for Puka Nacua? I think my answer is yes. Not everybody, some people think that's an absolutely crazy take. But yeah, it's been an interesting discussion. But for this week in particular, 7,700 getting 20% ownership, I think this is a spot against that Eagles defense where I'm going to be maybe not zero Puka, but I'm going to have definitely under the field.
Yeah, I'm with you. Actually, I'm with you for sure. And I think ultimately there's so many other places you can go. Now this game does have a 50.5 point total, but Puka's price point has come up. There's a lot of other, I mean, Ben and I talked about it yesterday. DeAndre Hopkins, I wish he was getting less ownership, but he's the cheapest he's been all year at 5,700. Marquise Brown, Wandale Robinson, someone DM'd me about him yesterday, actually, one of the viewers. I had just missed him. We didn't have ownership or anything. I just missed him. He's buried all the way at the bottom. You know, I mentioned on Monday night, we both did, that, hey, we saw his involvement and his targets when he was on the field, which was very sparingly in week 3 or 3, right? Yeah, week 3.
Yep.
He only played 9 snaps or 11 snaps, ran 9 routes in his return, but was targeted 5 times on those. And then fast forward to week 4, the Giants are utter garbage, but he went from playing 22% of snaps to 64% of snaps, led the teams in targets, only 6, but 18% target share, more targets than anybody else. I actually get why Wandale Robinson is 12%. And quite frankly, as bad as that offensive line is, maybe they get Thomas back, maybe they don't. By the way, Seattle had 5 sacks on the season going into week 4.
Yeah.
They were like bottom 10. And now they're tied for the league lead in sacks. Okay. After one game, 11 sacks. That is amazing. Wandale Robinson's minimum salary, though, yes, I think he is deserving of that ownership at 12%. I do. He's minimum salary on a slate where you have a lot of high price studs.
Yeah, so I know we're tying in the stacks a little bit in the wide receiver conversation, so I'm just going to say it. People might not love it. Open your third eye here. I think I'm going to get super ugly and be doing some giant stacks here. I think everybody watched that game and saw how dysfunctional they looked in their primetime game. They just, like Daniel Jones, was sacked immediately on every play, it felt like. So I think that's going to drive people away. I think this is just, like, as far as DFS spots go, you can't ask for a much better spot than an offense that has shown it in the past. They haven't shown it much recently, but that's also been against some of the best defenses in the league. Then they get the opportunity against a defense that has not been great, and they fail. So everybody's going to be like, no, they're just that bad. We can't go there. But it's still a fairly small sample size against defenses that are not just absolutely elite. And especially if they get Andrew Thomas back this week, I'm just going to be, I think, all in on the Giants offense. If Andrew Thomas is back, if he's not back, I'm still going to be overweight to the field on this offense, just because the Miami defense is bad. The offense is good. I always love the game environment with the Dolphins. And yeah, Wandale Robinson up to 61% route participation in week 4. That was just like a massive jump. Also got 6 targets. So, like, yeah, for obviously the targets per route run were going to drop. They dropped, but like still got 6 targets on 61% route participation. And he's 3,000. So yeah, Wandale Robinson makes a ton of sense here. We've got him at 12% ownership, 18% chance of being optimal. He's definitely going to be one of the players that I include in my Giants stacks. That's just going to be an offense that, you know, when I talk about how I'm going to get ugly that this week, that is one of the primary spots where I'm going to be getting ugly, is with the Giants against Miami.
I don't think you're crazy. By the way, did you say you'd take JSN or Puka?
I said I'd take Puka.
Okay. That's what I thought. Someone was going off in chat about it. I thought you said Puka as well, which is why I agreed with you. But then I had to go back and I can't check the tape. But yeah, I would too. I would too right now. Obviously, JSN could have. What do we really know about a rookie this early? But yeah, what Puka's done is outrageous. How about, okay, so here's a couple spots. Garrett Wilson at 6K is really interesting. 14 target game. Zach Wilson actually looked semi-competent last week. I don't know if that's going to last, you know. I guess it's like a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type deal. Zach Wilson kind of fooled me last week, but in the opposite direction. Like, if I go and play him this week, I don't know. I might.
I had a lot. So that was something that went well for me Monday night. Is the field only got to 20% Zach Wilson. Like, you don't see that very often where people are just completely off on one of the quarterbacks. The field just did not get there. I had a ton of Zach Wilson in that game. So that was one thing that went well for me. I did not ship that tournament, unfortunately, but man, was had that part right at the very least, playing a lot of the Jets offense. That was in a single game slate.
Right, for sure. And, you know, I may just end up going to a bunch of Garrett Wilson, a bunch of Breece Hall, and maybe not get to Zach Wilson, but he's dirt cheap. He's priced like a backup. So we'll talk about them when we get to the top stacks tool. But I love the target volume with Garrett Wilson, especially going up against Denver right now. They've just been, that defense is non-existent in all phases. It's really, really bad. Yeah. As far as under-owned players right now, I don't hate going back to Michael Thomas a little bit if we assume Derek Carr is healthier. Olave is the interesting one at 5%, because that Patriots team is missing players, right? Christian Gonzalez went down. I don't know if Jonathan Jones is going to play. Who the hell knows what happens here with these guys? Those injuries to the secondary could be very significant in a game like this. And the books don't even know what to do. I'm seeing the Patriots at +1.5 in some spots and -1.5 in other spots. Who the hell knows at this point? I'll tell you that much. But Olave, obviously Tyler Boyd will be popular if Higgins sits. Jalen Waddle's 2%. Marvin Mims is 1%. Like Marvin Mims in that spot, obviously it's tough against the Jets, but he's been so efficient with the opportunities he's gotten. I think eventually they just have to open the playbook up for him. This might not be the week. Maybe I jump on it in the following week. And then one other guy, I'll get your thoughts here on these wide receiver pivots. It is kind of funny how AJ Brown is, generally speaking, one of the lower owned guys at the high price, but he has the same ceiling as any of these guys. He has monster upside. He's coming off a 14 target game against Tampa, 9 for 131, a 13 target game against Washington, 9 for 175 and 2 touchdowns. He's one of the most incredible players after the catch. I think it's still going to be tough to get to AJ Brown, but man, there are some guys that are getting single digit ownership right now that I think in large field tournaments may be going overlooked.
Yeah. So I saw somebody in chat asking me if I'm completely off on the Eagles-Rams game. I actually like the Eagles part of the game. The Eagles have a 27.5 implied team total. I don't hate the Rams part either. They have a 23 implied team total. It's just that Puka is expensive enough that I don't really love him. So I think that I'm off the Rams largely because of the price tags. But the Eagles side of the game, I'm still on, and I'm hoping that the Rams can at least keep it close like that. The interesting part about the Patriots, so they just traded for J.C. Jackson. They got him back from the Chargers. So he's, at least they add somebody to help out in that backfield on defense. But yeah, it's still a defense that has not worked together all that much this year. So Olave is going to be pretty interesting there. As far as the Jets go, I think that's another spot where I'm going to get ugly. I actually think that I will include Zach Wilson there as well for the Jets. But yeah, I think Garrett Wilson looks great at 6,000. That stack would be super cheap, or just going individual. Garrett Wilson looks good here. I'm trying to cover all the things that you just talked about, but I think that a lot of good points. I think that I'm with you on the players that you mentioned largely. Devontae Smith, I think also, speaking of those Eagles, you talk about AJ Brown. Yeah. Devontae Smith also getting just 6% ownership, looks pretty good here. Tyler Boyd looks good in our tools with T. Higgins out, 5% projected ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. What do we do with the Texans? So I kind of like, you got Bijan going up against the Houston run funnel defense, and then you have this Texans team going against the pass funnel Falcons defense. So you got, Nico Collins, I think, in play once again after he absolutely crushed last game, 4% projected ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. And then also Tank Dell, he didn't really do anything this past week, but we've seen that he has the huge upside potential. Now he's also facing that Falcons defense at, I assume, lower on what would we have him? Oh, we have him 9% ownership, so he's not going completely overlooked, but I'd say he's interesting as well. I will say I also just saw the bad news that Daboll is expecting Andrew Jackson to be out again this week. So that hurt Andrew Thomas. Yeah, sorry, Andrew Thomas. That does hurt my love for the Giants a little bit. They're not going to be
that line is so bad, man. It's crazy.
I know it was like that was part of the everything coming together this week for nobody's going to play it, and it could be much better with Andrew Thomas being out. I'm a little bit less enthusiastic, but I think I'm still going to go there just because it's still, I don't think they're going to be as dysfunctional every week as they were last week, but it certainly hurts that. What I was hoping for there. I was hoping that
I don't think there's any way I want to double stack Jones though, because of his rushing upside. I think I would just much prefer to single stack him. That's just the way I see it.
Yep, I agree with you there. And then if you didn't see this, Laffy, Salah says Breece Hall is no longer on a snap count. So I know you were
that in Breece chat. Hall. Oh, here it is. Actually, it just popped up with Schefter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good. I tweeted about it yesterday morning, that I think this could finally be a Breece Hall week.
Yep.
Sure feels like it, right?
It really does.
Sure feels like it. And it's not like Dalvin Cook's been a world beater or anything.
No, Dalvin Cook's been awful.
I want Breece Hall out there as much as I can. That offensive line really isn't great, but Breece Hall at that price, I'd get there. I think he actually tore his ACL in Denver last year.
Is that right?
Not that it matters, but maybe he's pissed.
Maybe.
All right.
Could be.
Any other wide receivers worth discussing?
Probably, but we can't get through. Did I mention Rashee Rice, somebody that I have a little bit of
No, I
interest
think
in
that's
here
fair though.
against the Vikings defense? Yeah, I think we've mentioned several. Maybe you and I are both doing more shows throughout the week, so we'll get through all of them that we haven't already talked about. But I think we've mentioned most of the players that immediately pop out to me.
Let's talk tight ends, and that won't take long. And then get to our top stacks. That is a very fun part of the show because we can, kind of come full. So we can tie all of this together. And then it should make things very interesting. By the way, we're 18 likes away from 100. There's 18 of you kind folks in here willing to tap that thumbs up and get us north of 100 on Wednesday morning. That'd be great. One other thing, guys. Many of you watch this show each week, and I love that you hang with us every week. For those of you that are new or haven't wanted to do so yet or have been on the fence, we still have a way to get a week free of all of our tools. The NFL lineup simulator, the contest generator, right? The post contest simulator, which has been, I've been digging so deep into that every week with Ben on these shows. I come away from these shows going, dude, this tool is probably just as helpful for me right now as it is to anybody listening to this podcast. The ownership projections, the boom bust tool, top stacks tool, all of our showdown tools, they're all simulation tools in and of themselves. The top single game and showdown plays tool, ownership and projections there. You see optimal cap, everything. Premium Discord. As Neil said, we don't have enough time to go through every wide receiver. I don't have enough time to go through every single tool we have. Here's what I can tell you. You sign up at Owner's Box using the link in the description or the one in the chat. Deposit $10 minimum. My recommendation, as always, because they have a $500 up to $500 first match deposit bonus. If you have the means to do so, max out that deposit, especially because these contests have been overlaying like crazy. And you're not going to find that on DraftKings or FanDuel. You're just simply not going to find that type of huge overlay anywhere else when they're filling it like 70%, $35,000, $25,000 up top, and they're not even close to filling. These are the spots where you're saying there's dead money in here. Ben put it like this. He goes, if there's 32 NFL teams or say 14 teams still make the playoffs every year, but you took 5 or 6 of those teams out of the league entirely, but 14 teams still make the playoffs. It's the same concept over at Owner's Box when you're getting this overlay. They have super flex contests. They haven't been solved yet. Makes it a more interesting format. And you don't have to play defense, but you're getting all of our tools for the week, which means you're getting Thursday night football, all of our tools. Sunday, main slate, afternoon slate, showdown. Sunday, morning game. I think we have another London or Europe game. You're getting Monday night. And you're having the tools updated for next Thursday game as well. So if you're not there on Owner's Box yet, click it. Minimum deposit of 10. Take advantage of the bonus if you can, though, with whatever you have. Get in on these contests with the overlay specifically and use all of our tools. Once you get into our tools, because we'll email you, there's no like, oh, I need to upgrade. I need an add-on. It's every single tool we have for NFL is included in this for the entirety of the week. So link in the description and in the chat for that. Let's talk tight ends. Kelsey, far and away the best play here. And then you've got Goddard. We have at 11%, but Dallas Goddard's been so underwhelming. It's just the way the offense is working right now. Zach Ertz, I think, is still viable. He hasn't done much with the targets, but he's targeted a ton, Neil. And then guys coming in 8+%, Chiga Okonkwo, Irv Smith if he plays. And if Higgins is out, that's significant. Mark Andrews around 9%. Do you have any real leans towards guys that you like a lot at tight end? Because this position week in and week out just sucks.
Yeah, I think you said the obvious one, which is Travis Kelce against that Vikings defense. At some point, he's going to be Travis Kelce again. I think it's pretty likely to happen here. So Travis Kelce, I agree with you, far and away the top tight end here. If you can fit Travis Kelce and you're going to want to fit Travis Kelce into your lineups. I like TJ Hawkinson in the same matchup against the Chiefs. He's 6,500, didn't do anything last week, but 8% projected ownership, 10% chance to be an optimal looks interesting. funny. I was looking at Sam Laporta, and he looks good. 7% protected ownership, 9% chance to be an optimal. And I had the hesitation. Oh, but Jamison Williams is back. And it reminded me that we didn't even talk about Jamison Williams talking about wide receivers. At 4,000, I got to say, I might. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to play any.
I have him in the run sheet, and I forgot to mention him.
Oh,
I have him in there. I have him in there.
Pretty interesting to see him coming back already. Them shortening the suspension, but I don't think he's going to be running a ton of routes. He's still like, he had games last year where he had like the long touchdown and maybe paid off his salary arguably on the one touchdown, but it wouldn't be enough to like one long touchdown. Probably not going to be quite enough anyway. So he would probably need to run some more routes than he has historically for Jamison Williams, but cuts into
I think
Sam
it was
Laporta.
his first game back. I think it was the first game he played last year because he was out for so long with that injury. I think he had, actually I'm incorrect. His second game back, 1 reception for 41 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Which like, that's good, but like, it's not going to be enough to like really help you at 4,000 on a slate this size. So yeah, maybe a little bit interest in James Williams, but definitely still interest in Sam Laporta. He looks really good out there. 5,000, 7% protect ownership, 9% chance to be an optimal. So definitely interest in Laporta. Here's one spot where I said I'm going to get ugly. I think I'm going to go back to Darren Waller. So it certainly doesn't help that Andrew Thomas is out again. I really wanted Thomas to be back to really want to play Darren Waller, but I still think I'm going to go there a little bit. He's 5,400. If you watch that game, it looks like impossible to pay off that salary after just the Giants just being smoked all game last time out. But I do think that they're going to be better than they were at least against the Seahawks in that game. Like they're going to be better than they were in that game. And I think that Darren Waller, like he was getting more involved in the fourth quarter. So that shows some promise that Daniel Jones just remembered that he has Darren Waller in the fourth quarter. That's probably, he practiced with him all. He knows he's out there, but 5,400 Darren Waller in a great matchup in Miami where they're going to need to put up points to keep up with that Miami offense. I still think that he is the top receiver there for the Giants, even after just horrific play so far this year. Yeah, I think I'm going to go to some really low owned Darren Waller in a primo matchup against Miami. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy, but I wish he was cheaper.
Yeah.
I wish he was cheaper, but that's why he's getting no owners. I have him in there. I have him in, we do the run sheet. We have like chalk and then pivots in there. I have him in as a potential pivot for sure.
Okay.
I think Tyler Higbee, assuming Kupp is out, also makes a lot of sense because I still think the Eagles are going to struggle in the middle of the field. I do. And Higbee coming off a significant game from a target share perspective, I don't expect double-digit targets from Higbee every week. Like, I think that's more of an outlier than anything else. But could you see, an 8-target, 6 for 65 and a touchdown game from Higbee this week? I absolutely think you could. Conklin's 4%. Go ahead.
No, I disagree with you. I mean, I saw people earlier talking about stacking up that Philadelphia Rams game. Maybe Higbee is my favorite part of the Rams offense because of the price tag, because they still have a 23 implied team total. Higbee, the one that seems the likeliest to pay off his price tag at 4,100.
And there's a comment that I cannot ignore in chat because I can't believe I never thought about something like this. So Jake said, Laffy, start calling us the Sticks in chat. Hashtag Sticks Nation. Now, stochastic, I see where he's going. The fact that over all these years, we haven't come up with something to call our people.
Yeah.
Is
Stokies. Stokies, I thought.
The what?
Stokies?
Who uses that?
I just did just now.
Oh, I was like, if that's a thing, I missed it.
No, it's not a thing.
It feels like a big miss. It's a leak in the game that we haven't thought.
Yeah.
I'm going, and thank you, Jake. I'm going to ask you guys. Tweet at me, tweet at Neil. Let us know in chat. At Loughey_D, LOUGHY_D on Twitter. Neil at PlayerQDFS. Can we? I think we have to come up with something, right?
Some kind of like a community nickname. Yeah, no, I like it. I like the concept. I can't think of anything immediately. Stokies is the best I can do off the top of my head. Stick seems plausible. I don't know.
I'm weird about saying things with like the IES on the end of it.
Why is that?
Really weird. Like the Stokies.
What do you not like about it?
I don't know, man. Like what people used to smoke cigarettes, they'd be like, let me get a ciggy, which is, it makes me, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
There's something about certain words that are said that way that make me feel uncomfortable.
So you like sticks
There's other
better than
words I would
Stokies.
use. There's other words I would use to describe many of them, but I can't because this is a family-friendly show.
The Stokasms. That's not very family friendly. Works though, right? Stokasms.
Yes, it does work. Oh shit.
See if you can beat Stokasms. Tweet at us.
Guys, come up with some stuff and let us know. Come up with some stuff and let us know. I'd love to see what we could generate here. Let's get the brain trust working, Neil, and come up with something.
Yep.
But I think you agree, right? We need something. Jake is
no,
we need
for
something,
sure. Yeah.
right?
Better than just like Stochastic Nation. Like we could just Stochastic Nation, but like that's pretty yeah.
Yeah, anybody could do that though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it would be cool to reference them when we're talking chat.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys have been with us for a long time, hanging out with us, supporting the channel. They deserve it. You guys let us know. Anyway, you ready to talk top stacks and get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So top stack probability, looking at our top stack tool. Phillies number 1. That was interesting to me. We have them at 13.8%. Miami number 2, 12%. Minnesota at 11.5%. Kansas City at 10.9%. And I think probably the reason for that is because who the hell else, like, how are you playing that Kansas City team outside of Kelsey each week? We do have Cincinnati up at 10%, Rams at 9%, Detroit at 6%. Those are your 7 highest, most probable or most likely top stacks on the slate. What are your thoughts on all those before we get into the, ones that are maybe less obvious?
Yeah, I mean, Eagles makes a lot of sense. We like Jalen Hurts, obviously, and we like both of we didn't even talk. Did you bring up Dallas Goedert at all? They keep saying, Sirianni keeps saying we're gonna get him involved. He's gonna be a focal part of this offense at some point. So maybe throw Dallas Goedert into that stack as well. But we like both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
He should be 3,800 really with how he's been used. That's the only issue I have.
No, yeah, I agree with how he has been used, but I mean, he's 4,200 and Sirianni keeps saying they're going to get him involved. So if you take Sirianni at his word, maybe at some point Dallas Goedert becomes, he's also getting 11% ownership. So not like he's a super contrarian play, but somebody you can at least throw in there. So yeah, they look great. Hard not to like the Eagles, hard not to like Miami against the Giants. Like they just look great. 9% projected ownership for Tua, looks a little bit under-owned. I'm going to love playing the Vikings against the Chiefs. I'll go with Kirk and Jets any day. We have positive leverage on the Bengals. I think it's hard to account for the Joe Burrow injury, but we've got the Bengals at 8% ownership, 10% chance being the top stack. So it's interesting. I don't know that I'm going to get there a ton. I think I might be more likely to do what you said and just play Mixon and Chase and not Burrow, that kind of thing. Maybe more often than playing Burrow this weekend.
Yeah, because they could still get there just if it's a super concentrated target share, even if Burrow doesn't get there. Plus, Burrow's not mobile at all right now.
Right, exactly. Just like at 0 on his feet and not a ton, like not throwing far either. So like he's just dinking dunking, and obviously he doesn't get the PPR points for that. So hard to love Burrow this week, but I think I'm with you on you could play the other parts of the Bengals offense. And then the ugly place that I like to go, of course, being the Jets and the Giants, going to both of those New York quarterbacks. It's going to be ugly. What do we have the ownership here at? We have, why am I not finding them? I'm not finding the Giants in my. Anyway, coming in at low ownership, I have interest in both Zach Wilson and Daniel Jones just for, great spot at low ownership. I think that they're very much in play for me.
Guys, and if you're thinking of some of these names, it doesn't have to have stochastic in. Like it could be anything. It could be stuff that's become ingrained in this show over the years,
That's
inside
true.
jokes between the hosts and the viewers, between the community. Like it could be anything. Ross said the YouTube underlords. That's actually pretty funny.
That is funny.
But yeah, it could be, it doesn't have to have stochastic. It could be anything. I look forward to seeing some ideas. We've had so much stuff go on in these shows over the years. When you're doing them for as long as we've been doing and as many days as we have, there's got to be something out there, right?
It's got to be. You see. Jordan says Josh has a name for them. Probably not the one we want to go with, though. I don't, yeah.
Yeah,
funny.
I'm good on that. I mean, I would be curious to know what it is, but yeah. Anyway. All right. A couple of the lowest rated stacks we have. Atlanta's down there, Carolina, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Tennessee, Denver. A few that I like though, and you mentioned a lot of this. I'll wrap up my part of the show with this. A couple that I think are interesting for a number of different reasons. I don't think the Jets is insane. You said you might get to some Zach Wilson.
Yep.
I really don't think it's great because if you go to like as Wilson and Garrett Wilson single stack, and Zach Wilson has a little bit of rushing upside, that opens so much up. Like you can do so much around that. Hell, you could get weird and throw Chase and Mixon in those. Like there's just so many things you could do. You could go Jefferson there, Hill, whatever you want. So I think that's viable. I would assume that's a similar approach you're taking with the Giants. Both of these have an average salary of $5,000. These stacks have an average salary of $5,000. Really, really cheap. Aside from that, though, the only other one that I would mention, Arizona. I don't hate single stacking Joshua Dobbs with like a Marquise Brown or something, or even maybe a Wilson if you're in large field tournaments, because Dobbs has displayed, I know how gross this feels, guys, but we've seen gross stuff perform particularly well. Dobbs' last 3 fantasy performances, 25, 17, and 23, right? Mm-hmm. And they got smoked last game. They've stayed mosely competitive. That was a 21-16 game up until like 30 or like 20 minutes left or whatever, but he hasn't been that bad. He's rushed for 48 yards, 55 yards, 41 yards and a touchdown. He has a long run of 44 and then another 23-yard touchdown. If you got like 50 rushing yards, 45, 50 rushing yards out of Josh Dobbs at a dirt cheap price point, maybe Marquise Brown has a strong game. I don't think in large field it's crazy.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Cardinals actually have a 20.75 implied team total. So they're not like, coming into the year, would have expected like 14 to 15 being their implied team total against this Bengals defense. So they are expected to put up some points. So I don't hate it.
Hey, guys, again, follow Neil at PlayerQ, DFS, me, _D. Remember, Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, Iowa, Kentucky, Bet365, $1 turns into $365. I forget to mention this earlier. Must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. That's in the description and in chat. Owner's Box. Sign up. You don't need a promo code. Just use the link. You're in. Deposit $10 or more if you want to get that deposit bonus and get in some overlay. All of our tools, entirety of the week for free. Description, chat. We got you covered. You ever have any questions? My DMs are fully open on Twitter. I'm happy to answer them. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Think up a good name. When we come back here, we will settle this and we will have a new community name and I'll be very excited about it. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing as always. We'll catch you guys back here for the next one. Peace.